On April 18, 2016, Missy Bevers arrived at Creekside Church in Midlothian, Texas at 4:18 a.m. As soon as she arrived, she started hauling in all of her exercise equipment into one of the classrooms because she was getting ready to hold a Camp Gladiator boot camp that took place at 5 a.m. Students began arriving just before 5 a.m., but instead of finding Missy getting ready for the class, they found her lying face up on the floor, surrounded by broken glass. At 5:06 a.m., her students called 911, but at that point there was nothing they can do because Missy was already dead. When police arrived, they immediately began the investigation, but when they got there, they realized that the exterior cameras that surveyed the entire parking lot were out of service for some time. But what they also found was that the church was equipped with interior motion sensor security cameras, and so that was the footage that they went off of. The cameras showed that at 3:50 a.m. on the same morning Missy was murdered, caught a clear video of the murderer wandering the halls of the church. While this was a promising lead, there was a downside. The individual was dressed head to toe in black police riot gear, complete with black face covering, a helmet, and what looked to be a bulletproof vest, with large white letters spelling out police across the back and chest. So even though they had this clear image, they couldn't distinguish who it actually was. In the video, what's incredibly disturbing is that the person seemed eerily calm and in control as they stalked the halls of the church, checking doors and breaking things with a hammer that was clutched in their hand. Police have not released exactly how Missy died, but the medical examiner that was assigned to the case had said that the wounds on Missy's head and chest are consistent with the tool that the suspect is seen carrying in the video. During the investigation, police studied the tape to try and get an accurate profile of the suspect. They released info stating that the individual was incredibly small, possibly between 5 feet 2 inches and 5 feet 8 inches, and walked with a distinctive gait with their toes pointed outward and a slight limp to their walk. Another interesting note was that the detectives said the walk had a feminine sway, and considering how small the suspect was, they couldn't rule out the possibility that the murderer was actually a woman. Being that this person was already there when Missy arrived, one of the theories floating around was that she could have possibly interrupted a burglary, but that theory didn't make sense because Creekside Church wasn't a megachurch. It was actually relatively small to Texas standards, and it also could have been a quick smash and grab, but that theory didn't make sense either because nothing was missing from Creekside. And interestingly enough, nothing was missing from Missy Bevers either. With those theories debunked and thrown out the window, it looked as though Missy was specifically targeted. And so initially the police turned their attention to her husband Brandon, and he fully cooperated with the police just to make it seem like he wasn't hiding anything, which he wasn't. He even had a rock-solid alibi telling them that he was on a fishing trip in Mississippi, and eventually police were able to confirm that alibi through surveillance footage. 4 days after the murder, police finally had this massive break in the case, or they thought they did. A man had taken a bloodstained white t-shirt to the dry cleaners, and when he got there, he was explaining to the dry cleaner, hey, this had happened, and this is why I am bringing you a bloodstained t-shirt. The dry cleaner didn't really believe the story, but he knew who the man was. And he called the police right away. This man was Missy's father-in-law, Randy Bevers. So why was Randy Bevers at a dry cleaner 4 days after the murder giving this person a bloodstained white t-shirt? Speculation spread like wildfire at this point, and the public was made aware of the situation somehow, and they knew that Brandon's dad, Missy's father-in-law, had brought in a bloodstained white t-shirt to the dry cleaners. And so theories rose again, and one of them was that Brandon and his dad had to work together, and they agreed that he would go to Mississippi on a fishing trip for his cover. But that theory was quickly thrown out the window because the police had investigated it and it just proved to be wrong. Another one was that his dad had worked alone to try and get Brandon out of a bad marriage without losing any money or custody of his daughters, but that theory was thrown out the window as well. What's interesting is that Randy Bevers matched the physical description of the suspect on the video. He was a shorter, stocky man, and he even walked with his toes pointed outward. But even though he matched the physical description to a T, his alibi checked out. He was on a golfing trip in California, so that theory of Randy Bevers killing Missy Bevers was thrown out the window as well. So why did Randy have a bloody woman's t-shirt? Well, his story was that he stopped a dogfight in his daughter's backyard and he brought his dog to the emergency vet. His story checked out because the police checked the surveillance footage of the vet he told police to, and sure enough, he was on video. By this point, police were back to square one. They didn't have anything else to look at, and so they decided just to look at their phone records, and they found evidence of infidelity from both Brandon and Missy. So they figured maybe this could have been a crime of passion, but they investigated this entire lead and nothing came of it, so they had to scrap that lead as well. Now, if you think of it, Missy was an independent contractor, and as an independent contractor for a small fitness business, your money and time heavily rely on advertising. So what exactly does that mean? It means that random people know of your whereabouts at all times, every single day. The day before Missy's murder, she posted on her Facebook page that even though rain was in the forecast, it wasn't going to stop their class, and decided just to move it inside the church. If a scorned spouse or a stalker wanted to know where she was, all they had to do was look at her Facebook page. A few days after looking into the infidelity lead and their messages and their phone records, police asked the public for help because they didn't have anything to look at. And a witness said they saw a dark SUV leaving the church parking lot at around 4:30 a.m. This information led to a man named Bobby Wayne Henry. Bobby drove a brown SUV similar to the one that the witness saw in the morning. What's interesting about this witness statement is that Bobby was also a former police officer and tactical agent who admitted to the investigators that he still owned some of his tactical gear. In 1996, Bobby was actually fired from the police force for aggravated sexual assault. To go in deeper about Bobby, he attended Creekside Church where Missy was murdered and actually worked security for her funeral. What's disturbing about those observations is that it's fairly common for a criminal to want to return to the scene of the crime or check the aftermath of what they did. So once again, the police had a very promising lead, and they heavily looked into Bobby after the public's tip and noticed that he even had the distinctive gait to his walk the suspect had on video. They even brought in a forensic podiatrist to compare Bobby's gait to the suspect on camera, but they couldn't conclude they were the same. In the end, Bobby was let go because he passed several polygraph tests and was well over the observed height of the suspect. The investigation didn't clear Bobby of everything, though. Authorities found something disturbing on his computer that I cannot say here, otherwise my channel will most likely get banned. If you'd like to see what it was, you can probably just search his name on Google. Bobby was arrested and jailed in 2017, and that was the last major lead in Missy's case. Despite the suspect being on camera and numerous tips from the public, this case has never been solved.